this is when really in the textbook the possibility of two triangles happen when they just give you the information but don't draw the triangle. So we've got triangle DEF, and what I do as a start for these is I start drawing a triangle, and I always put the angle that you know here. It'll make our life very similar to how we did our activity. So we've got D, and we've got E, which is here, and F, which is down here. And this is 5. So remember, if you pinned something to this and swung it around, when do we get the possibility of more than one triangle or no triangles? Well, if E to F is less than 5, then it's the ambiguous case, and it's unclear. But what did they tell us E to F was in this case? It's 8, and so we can say, since the side opposite the angle is bigger than 5 for the side adjacent to the angle, there's only one triangle. I mean, if we wanted to, we could find the height to find out what the smallest one would be. But anytime, right, remember in that activity, if this one right here, which I've drawn in blue, and there was a pin here and you swung it around and made a circle all the way around, because it's 8, there's only going to be one. It's never going to swing back and also hit a point here. So only one triangle can be drawn. So now we know that if we do the sine law, there's only going to be the small angle. We can show our reference angle and show the two, and one of them is going to be wrong that way. So solve the triangle. Now, this is something new. What does it mean to solve a triangle?
So like
Every angle and every side. So we have a couple of things to find here. First of all, is it a 90-degree triangle? No, we only have the 80 degrees. It might be, we don't know, but we can't use SOHCAHTOA at all, or a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Do we have an angle and its opposite side? Yes, right here, right? We've got the 8 and the 80. So we could use the sine law. Which thing can we find first? The other side, angle E or angle F? Angle F. So we're going to need to find angle F. Okay? And sometimes you're going to see it like this. I'm also going to just show you that sometimes they'll write some things like this. If you went from E to F to D, to all three of those letters, the middle letter is where the angle is at. But sometimes they have more lines, so just like if I had another line here, what's angle F now? Is angle F between the blue and the red, between the blue and the black, or between the red and the black? You don't know, it's unclear. So then you'll start using 3 letters. So I just wanted to show you that angle F, another way we could write it is angle EFD. So with those 3 letters there, we want to find angle F first. So we always put what we want to find, sine of angle F over what's opposite of F is the 5 equals. We have sines on top, so put the angles on top. 80 degrees goes with 8. So sine of angle F equals 5 sine 80 over 8. Now you could show this, right? And I did it as a decimal last time because I wanted to see that this was a positive value. But I could find my reference angle by just doing sine inverse of this. And I know that any angle between 0 and 90 degrees is positive because in quadrant 1, according to our CAST rule, all things are positive in quadrant 1. So my reference angle for F is going to be, and I can type this all into my calculator and use my fraction button, 5 sine 80 divided by sine, sorry, divided by, I can't see it, divided by 8. And I get my reference angle as 37.988. So if you think in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2, and technically, here's my reference angle. My 37.988 would be there. 37.988 would be there. So my actual angle F, does it say round to the nearest degree, just so I can start cheating? Yes. 38 degrees. And 180 minus 38 will be 142 degrees. Technically, we didn't have to do the 142 degrees in this question. Do you know why? Because we already said there's only one triangle. And if there's only one triangle, it's going to be the smaller angle. It's going to be the acute angle. So I'm going to go back to my triangle, and a good strategy in these questions is after you solve something, label it in your triangle. Because now it will tell you what you can solve next. What do you think you'd like to find next? Angle E, because it's going to add up to 180, right? Okay, so if I go 180 minus 80 is 100 minus 38, that will leave us with 62 degrees. Now we have only one thing left. Can we use the sine law again? Yes. So now I want to find little side E. So I'll just extend my page. Are you all right that we showed no work to find the 62 degrees? We just did it in our head? Okay. So to find E, now I would set up my sine law. Well, E goes with 62 degrees equals, and of the other ones, I would use the ones that were given to us originally, 8 and sine 80. So how would I get E by itself? Go to my calculator, use the fraction button. 8 sine 62 over sine 80. 7.172, and we're supposed to round to, someone tell me? Nearest 10? Okay. And is it centimeters?
Yeah.
7.2 centimeters. So again, I'm going to go up to my triangle. I'm going to label that as well, so that when I look at my triangle, have I figured out everything? Yes. This is solving it completely. Now, if I was being really fussy, I did a tiny thing in this question that is possibly a mistake. And the tiny thing that I did is, did you see that when I solved for E, I used the 62 degrees? And technically, the 62 degrees was rounded. So rounding early might have given us a mistake for side E. I'm gonna show you what would happen if you didn't round early. So 180 minus 80 minus this angle. Instead of 62 degrees, I technically should have used 62.01138. I'm gonna retype that in and see if it would make a difference. 8 sine, and then I'm gonna steal this answer with all of its decimal places, over sine 80. And we had 7.2. Still worked out to the same. So you wouldn't have lost any marks for rounding early on this one, because the rounding early didn't affect your final answer. But do you see that if you had to round to 3 decimal places, it still would have been the same, 173. So you would have been safe there. But generally, we don't want to round until the very end. But sometimes, like in a question like this, when you're solving multiple things, they may put it so that they'd be like a little bit more lenient, especially in grade 11. Okay, questions to circle on this one are 7i, 10, and 11.